They told you the world was a ball, spinning, floating, perfect, wrapped in blue and crowned with satellites. But what if that image, the one in every classroom, on every phone, in every mind, was never meant to inform you? It was meant to limit you. The globe is not a map, it's a containment model. A closed-loop visual spell designed to make sure you never ask, what's beyond the edge? Antarctica isn't a continent, it's a barrier. A sealed frozen ring that surrounds all known land. There are no fly zones, international treaties that no one questions, guarded borders with military enforcement. They say it's for science, but no one builds worldwide military restrictions just to protect penguins. What are they really hiding at the edge? Because old maps, they don't place Antarctica at the bottom. They place it around the world, a circle, a cage. Look into the archives before NASA, before the UN, before the modern globe. You'll find maps with extra continents, unknown lands, islands bigger than Australia, now missing. The Orontes Phineas map, 1531, shows Antarctica ice-free, with rivers and cities. The Piri Reis map, 1513, includes land no one has discovered. The Japanese Heiko maps show concentric realms with more land beyond ours. These weren't guesses, these were records. And they weren't wrong, they were redacted. There are places you can't go, not because they don't exist, but because they're sealed, marked as no access, uninhabitable or classified. The maps cut them off, the globe curves them out, but the ancients included them. Beyond the ice wall, beyond the poles, there are lands never spoken of in modern education. Some called them Hyperborea, others called them Terra Infinita. What's clear is this: they are not for us. The 1958 Russian map, declassified in parts, shows more than 7 continents. So do the ancient Vedic scrolls, so do Sumerian records. Even the Byrd expedition logs hint at land bigger than the US beyond the pole. So why are we only taught about 7? Because knowledge of additional realms breaks the illusion. If the Earth is bigger, the system is smaller. If there's more land, there are more resources, more origin stories, more beings, and less control. They didn't just lie about the land, they rewrote the heavens. They turned the stars into a projection, a fixed dome of mapped illusion. But the ancient ones, they didn't navigate by constellations, they navigated by resonance. Because the real map isn't just horizontal, it's vertical. The sky above isn't space, it's a grid, a layered interface, a frequency ceiling. And what we call stars, they're not suns, they're nodes, points in the cosmic circuit board. So why alter the sky? Because your orientation determines your memory. Your mind syncs with what you see overhead. Change the stars and you erase the coordinates of origin. The ancients aligned temples to the true heavens, the living sky. A sky that moved, that sang and that spoke to the soul. But now it's muted, it loops, it feeds nothing. Because if you remembered the real alignment, you'd know exactly where the hidden lands are and exactly how to reach them. There were once map makers who didn't work for kings, they didn't serve popes, they didn't draw for war or profit. They mapped the world because they remembered it. These were the cartographers of memory, scribes of the true earth, men and women who encoded hidden lands, sacred geometries, lost continents into their charts, not for control, but for awakening. And that's why they were erased. Their maps showed things that broke the spell. Continents beyond the poles, rivers under the ocean, mountain ranges shaped like beings, ports that no longer exist, but still resonate in the grid. Symbols that weren't just decorative, they were coordinates. They weren't guessing, they were preserving. But Empire couldn't allow that, so they were burned, killed, or absorbed into secret societies. The maps we use today are the censored versions. The UN globe, a distortion of the flat Earth azimuthal equidistant map, stripped of names, borders and truth. The real cartographers didn't just map land, they mapped access points, ley lines, portals, sound gates. And their work didn't disappear, it went underground. Locked in old churches, hidden in Freemasonic vaults, embedded in cathedrals through geometry, not ink. Because Even if you burn the map, the song of the land remains. What if the lands we've lost were never destroyed? What if they were fractured out of phase, still here, still real, just no longer visible in this layer of the map? We think in 2 dimensions, but the Earth, she's layered. The fractured Earth theory says continents didn't sink, they were veiled, shifted out of resonance. That's why legends of Lemuria, Mu, Atlantis and ancient Hyperborea exist on every continent. Different names, same memory. Every time a land was erased from the map, it wasn't through nature. It was through war. Borders weren't drawn with pens. They were carved with fire, blood and rewritten memory. Entire empires vanished overnight, not by collapse, but by deletion. And when they wiped the land, they didn't stop there. They wiped the language, culture, the memory of who lived there. It wasn't conquest, it was cartographic genocide. They didn't just erase land, they erased your past lives, your tribes, your codes. And then they gave you a globe and said, this is all there is. Maps were redrawn by the victors, but the land still holds echoes. Why do so many of us feel a pull to places we've never been? Why do some ruins feel familiar the moment we touch them? Why do certain coordinates give us dreams? Because your soul remembers what the map erased. But the truth, you're standing on the bones of forgotten worlds, walking the outlines of buried borders, and breathing the air of vanished nations. The only map that's real is the one that's activating in your blood. They made us believe the map was something printed, something external. But what if the real map, the true map, was biological? What if your DNA is a cartographic key encoded with directions to places no globe will ever show? Because ancient tribes didn't just carry stories, they carried coordinates, buried in bloodlines, passed through ritual, rhythm and remembrance. And when you start to awaken, it's not just insight, it's internal navigation. That pull to distant lands you've never seen, that déjà vu in ruins, that ache in your chest when you see a place you've never been, that's ancestral resonance. Your body is a living archive of the Earth's real geography. The map is cellular, the journey is genetic, the compass, your frequency, and that's why they flood us with distortion, GMO food, water memory disruption, EMF chaos to scramble the code. But you're here, you're remembering. You're not just decoding the world, you're unlocking it from within. Because the final truth is this: the lands we lost, they didn't disappear. They went dormant inside us. And now that the signal is rising, so are you. The land isn't out there, it's interlaced with your being. That's why when you speak truth, your body responds. Goosebumps, heat, cold, pressure in the crown, because you're unlocking topography encoded in your soul. The ancient explorers didn't just use stars, they used trance, drums, dreams. They would shift their frequency to match the destination, and the earth would open to them. That wasn't magic, it was resonant access. The rulers of old weren't just obsessed with lineage for status. They weren't protecting bloodlines for power, they were protecting access. Bloodlines were geographic passcodes, each line tied to a realm, a land, a frequency. To be born into certain families wasn't just privilege, it was location memory. Some carried the coordinates of lost continents, others of inner earth realms, or the lands beyond ice. Even the right to rule was based on hidden geography encoded in DNA. You couldn't enter certain places without the frequency in your blood. And you think it's coincidence that royalty is obsessed with genealogy? They didn't want to preserve purity. They wanted to preserve gate access. You've always been told to look outside for the answers, but the real journey is inward. The veins in your body mirror river systems. Your neural pathways echo ley line grids. Your heartbeat syncs to Earth's Schumann resonance. This is no longer about physical territory. It's about mapped consciousness. But they can't colonize land. So they colonized you, your beliefs, your memory, your internal compass. Now, they distort the magnetic grid, scramble the solar codes, and fill your sky with noise. Because if you remember who you are, If you reconnect your blood to the true earth, the system collapses. You are the map. You are the gatekeeper. You are the continent rediscovered. They took the land, they erased the names, they broke the compass, and then they told you to trust them for direction. But what they couldn't erase was you, because deep in your cells, your bones, your breath was the original map. The one your ancestors sang to, the one your dreams keep circling back to, the one your soul has been tracking like a beacon across lifetimes. You're not here by accident. You're here to reclaim the terrain that was stolen in ink, war and whisper. So now you stop looking at the globe. You stop chasing satellites, you stop asking for permission, and you start listening to the pull in your gut, to the burn in your hands, to the activations in your sleep. Because when the map is alive inside you, you don't need coordinates. You become the key. Every step becomes a return. Every breath becomes a signal. And every spoken truth reshapes the grid beneath your feet. You don't follow the map anymore. You walk it back into existence. They say we're looking at suns, giant burning spheres millions of miles away. But when you really look up, especially through a real lens, unfiltered by NASA or overlays, you don't see fiery balls. You see oscillating patterns, swirling lights, almost like ripples on water or vibrating sound signatures. Stars look circular not because they're solid spheres, but because they're resonant frequencies held in place. Harmonic nodes flickering in the firmament's grid. You're not looking out into infinity. You're looking into a dome of light frequencies, mapped, mirrored, and mathematically fixed. And that's why the constellations have never changed, not in thousands of years, because they're not drifting in space, they're part of the design. You are told the sun rises and sets because the earth spins, but that's not what we see. The sun doesn't rise, it rotates in a wide arc above the land, just like a local spotlight over a giant stage. That's why sunrise and sunset look so horizontal, and why light fades evenly in every direction. Not because the earth is turning, but because the light source is moving above you. Watch time lapses from high altitude. You'll see the sun curve around us rather than sink away. In the flat plane model, the sun circles overhead. Its light is local. Its path is measured, and its movement aligns perfectly with the ancient cosmologies. No tilting earth, no spiraling through endless space. Just a clockwork sun within the sealed system. And why do sunsets bleed red? Because the firmament is refracting the light. The deeper the angle, the thicker the dome's filter. You're watching a contained orb dim through a crystalline ceiling. They say the sun is 93 million miles away, but if it were, its rays would hit the earth in parallel lines. Instead, you get crepuscular rays, those sunbeams that diverge from a single point. That only happens when the light source is near, very near. They told us the moon reflects the sun's light, a passive rock bouncing solar rays. But step outside on a clear night and you'll feel it. The moon doesn't warm, it chills. That's because the moon is not a reflector, it's emitting its own light. And that light, cold, polar, disruptive. Infrared thermometers have tested it. Objects in direct moonlight are colder than those in the shade. That's not how reflection works. That's opposite radiation. Ancient mystics called the moon the countersun, a balancing force, but not neutral, not passive. It alters sleep, shifts moods, spikes seizures. It doesn't just shine, it affects. And that face we always see, it's locked. The moon never rotates from our view. It shows one face only, as if it was positioned, not formed. Even the craters behave strangely, shadows in the wrong directions. Flat-bottomed like imprints, not impact zones. So what is it? A local luminary, a signal tower, a code emitter? Its phases sync with tides, birth cycles, blood and dream states. It's not random, it's ritual. And if it's broadcasting, what's receiving? They say the stars are suns scattered across a limitless void, but they've never moved, not in thousands of years, not in any meaningful way. The same constellations your ancestors saw are still in the same positions. The North Star has never left the centre, even as they claim we spin, tilt, orbit and spiral through space. If we were truly hurtling through the galaxy, we wouldn't see perfect cycles and static star maps. We'd see chaos, but what we see is structure. The stars don't float, they're fixed points in the firmament grid. Oscillating lights locked into celestial circuitry. The zodiac isn't about personality, it's a sky clock, a cosmic calendar. Each sign represents a seasonal frequency window, energetic gates that align with earthly events. That's why major rituals always happen under specific star signs. It's not astrology, it's timing within the dome's program. And the 12 signs, they aren't just signs, they're zones. Sky sectors used to orient time, energy, and even soul transit. Even ancient temples were aligned to the fixed stars because the ancients knew the true grid isn't GPS, it's celestial. When you look up, you're not seeing infinity, you're seeing the clockwork of the construct, programmed sky. And if the stars are code, then your story was written in light. But you're not trapped in it, you're here to rewrite it. They say space is endless, but every rocket hits the same thing, resistance. A point where speed dies, engines stall and the silence gets heavy. So they show us CGI galaxies and green screen launches, but no raw footage ever breaks through. Because we're not flying through space, we're sealed in. The firmament isn't a metaphor, it's structure. Described in Genesis, echoed in the Quran, mirrored in ancient cosmologies from Egypt to the Norse tree of Yggdrasil. A barrier, a vault, a ceiling of containment. So, can we leave? Physically, no one has. Not through force, not with tech. But there are other ways. The mystics knew, the shamans, the monks who fasted for 40 days. The prophets who vanished into the mountains and returned, changed. They didn't escape with ships. They exited through frequency. The body is a cage, but the spirit can shift beyond the veil. In lucid dreams, deep meditations, near-death states, the dome cracks. Not from the outside, but from within. Because the construct doesn't fear rockets, it fears remembrance. So, no, maybe you can't climb a ladder out of here, but you can vibrate beyond the walls. And once your resonance no longer matches the cage, it can't hold you. Not in this life, not after. And that's the real exit strategy. They told you Earth is 24,901 miles in circumference. A perfect spinning ball in space. But even that number doesn't hold up. Flight paths don't match the curve. No one accounts for curvature in construction. The horizon goes forever, and pilots have spoken on record. The Earth is a level plane. So how big is it really? We don't know the full size, because we've never been shown the full map. But what we can see is that Earth extends far beyond the known continents. Beyond the ice wall, there are more lands. Ancient maps show dozens of realms, some circular, some sprawling. A 1958 Soviet-era map showed over 30 continents, some say hundreds. And that's just in this layer. The land doesn't curve, it expands, it continues. You're not on a globe, you're on a sealed, endless plane. A realm so vast, it would break your programming to grasp it all at once. So how far does it go? To the outer ice rings. Beyond that, some say there are mirror realms, duplicate worlds, light inversions. Others say it wraps in on itself like a toroidal field, a looping construct of endless terrain. The Earth is far bigger than we've been told. Old maps show land beyond the Antarctic Circle. Sailors like Admiral Byrd spoke of massive undiscovered continents past the South Pole. Treaties, restricted zones and military protection around Antarctica prove something's being hidden. And this is the bit they don't want out. So here it is. No more coded language, no poetic veil. You want the truth? You're already standing in it? Yes, there are other lands, just like this one. Not fantasy, not metaphor, real lands. Beyond the ice wall, in other enclosed systems, other domes, other realms, each with their own sun, their own moon, their own grid. You've been taught you're on the only one, but that's the first lie. We live on one pocket of terrain in a much larger construct. Each pocket is a sealed system, a contained environment, part of a vast interconnected design. Some ancient maps showed them, rings upon rings of land, each one self-governing with its own beings, timelines and laws of nature. You're not alone. You were never alone. Why don't they tell us? Because control only works when you believe there's nowhere else to go. Nowhere to run, nothing beyond. If humanity found out about the other lands, governments would fall, borders would collapse, people would demand passage, and that's why the Antarctic Treaty exists. That's why no country claims the South Pole. That's why all militaries protect the edge. You're in one system, but it's just one realm in a vast grid of worlds. You weren't meant to find out, but you did. Now what do you want to do with it? Because the edge isn't the end, it's the beginning. Do they see the same stars? Not exactly. Each dome has its own star map. The zodiac shifts from realm to realm, just like sky clocks tuned to different frequencies. That's why some realms don't match ours in mythology or alignment. Their firmament is tuned to a different grid, and their nodes, planets, orbit their own center point. It's a multi-dome system, think cosmic honeycomb. Do they have their own suns? Yes. Not massive burning hydrogen balls, but local luminaries. Smaller, closer, designed for that realm's needs, just like ours. Programmed to rotate above their terrain. Some suns are cooler, some are dual. There are even records of black suns, not dark in light, but in function. Are they all being lied to? That's the hardest truth. Some, yes, just like us. Still trapped in their own version of the Matrix, still worshipping their globe, still believing they're alone. Others, they've broken free, they know the construct. Some have guarded knowledge we've forgotten. And a few, they're watching us, waiting to see if we remember who we are. This is not a planet, it's a living archive, a partitioned library of realities. Do they have animals like us? Yes and no. Some realms have mirror species, lions, wolves, birds, fish, but different. Bigger, smarter, older, or uncorrupted by the genetic manipulation that happened here. Others have creatures we'd call mythical, winged serpents, talking beasts. Giants have elemental beings that exist between forms. Because out there, the laws of nature aren't all the same. We were taught that dragons never existed, that unicorns were fantasy, that centaurs were myths. But in other realms, they weren't legends, they were local fauna. What we call mythical may be commonplace in the realms beyond the dome. And here's the twist. Some of our extinct species didn't die. They migrated or were sealed off. Saber-tooths, mastodons, direwolves. You feel the truth, don't you? They still exist, just not here. And just like our realm has been manipulated, so have some of theirs, but others, they've been preserved, lands untainted by industry, war or code breakers. Imagine a realm where animals speak in frequency, where telepathic wildlife still exists, where there's no food chain, only harmony. Those lands, they never fell. And they know we're waking up. You think the ice wall is just frozen terrain? No. It's patrolled, not just by men in uniforms, but by beings. Guardians, sentinels, placed at the threshold between realms. Some are biological, some are not. Some are the last of ancient bloodlines tasked with keeping the borders sealed. Old sailors spoke of giants in the south. Admiral Byrd hinted at massive creatures beyond the pole. Even ancient cartographers drew serpents, dragons, and humanoid beasts guarding the perimeters. They weren't decorating maps, they were documenting memory. There are reports buried deep of feathered colossi roaming edge zones, ice serpents surfacing near the wall, bipedal sentinels immune to weapons, and humanoid watchers with eyes that glow under the aurora. These aren't just stories, they're warnings. Some beings were placed here not to harm, but to contain, to prevent crossing between realms unless one is resonantly aligned. And what does that mean? It means force won't get you through, only frequency. That's why expeditions vanish, why records are scrubbed, why Antarctica is locked tight. Because if you're not meant to pass, you won't. While we were plunged into war, rewrites, resets and religions, not every realm fell. Some stayed untouched, uncolonized, unbroken. These are the preserved civilizations, original humans who never ate the lie, never fell under false light, never forgot who they are. They didn't need to build back because they were never broken. They still hold pre-flood knowledge, organic technology, star communication systems, and memory of the unified earth before the partitions. Their architecture is alive. Their power is natural. Their food isn't grown. It resonates into being. Some of these realms operate on telepathic governance. Others function through harmonic codes. No hierarchy, no money, no war. And here's the real reason they're hidden. They make our system obsolete. Governments don't want you to know about advanced alien civilizations. But these aren't aliens. They're us. The version of us we were supposed to become. And when the firmament thins, some of them will return. Not to save us, but to remind us. Because we have the same spark, we just forgot how to use it. For every realm that preserved the light, there is one that reversed it. The mirror realms are not fake, they're inverted. Twisted reflections of Earth's original template. Same structure, but corrupted coding. These are the Shadowlands. In these realms, the sun is blackened. Time moves differently. Plants consume instead of nourish. Beings exist that look like humans but don't carry soul light. It's not just distortion, it's deliberate inversion. A reality built to mock the original, to feed instead of create. These lands weren't always like this. They were infected, hijacked by parasitic forces we'd call demonic, AI, synthetic or fallen light. You feel the bleed, don't you? Deja vu from places you've never been, recurring dreams in dark cities, glimpses of inverted versions of yourself. The sense that another you is walking a mirrored path, but in chains, these mirror realms are connected to us. What happens there echoes here. And lately, the veil is thinning. Some of the chaos in our world now is leakage from those worlds. Spilling through media, tech, rituals, CERN, trying to anchor their inversion into our grid. But here's the twist. The more you remember, the more theirs unravels. Because you are not just a node in this system. You're a firewall. Not every path leads deeper into the system. Some lead out. But not through rocket fuel, not through governments, not even through death, not always. There are exit gates, ancient ones, coded into the terrain and into you. These gates are not places, they are frequencies, and they only open for those whose resonance matches the original blueprint, the one before the fracture, before the edits, before the prison grid. You don't find the gate, you remember it, and once you do, it opens inward. Throughout history, the initiated searched for it. The Gnostics called it the Aeon Bridge, the Essenes called it the Light Way. The Vedic texts named it the Door of Devas, even in Egyptian lore, the Duat, a secret passage between realms guarded by memory and purity. The catch, you can't bring the system's weight with you. Not fear, not control, not lies. Only truth, only signal. And the map, it's been with you since birth, in your blood memory, in the geometries that call to you, in the dreams that repeat. And in the songs and symbols you're drawn to but don't know why. Those are breadcrumbs from your higher self, from the version of you that never fell. The gate isn't just an escape, it's a return to who you were before the dome, before the edit, before Earth was split. And once you pass through it, you don't just leave the construct, you collapse it. They built the construct to contain you, to limit your senses, to trap your soul in a loop of forgetting. They used maps, then globes, then screens, then stars. They told you where you live, what you are, what the sky is, what truth is. But all along, they were terrified you'd remember something far more dangerous, that you are the gate, the map, the signal, the flame. You were never meant to be a passenger. You were a navigator. And that gut feeling you've carried since childhood, that this world is not quite right, that something is being hidden, that there's more out there. That wasn't doubt. That was truth echoing through your blood. They didn't trap you in this realm. They trapped your memory. But now it's waking up. And as it returns, the barriers weaken, the sky cracks, the lies rot, and the earth expands beneath your feet. Because once you stop asking, where is the edge, and start asking, why was it sealed, the dome begins to open from the inside. So here's the truth. You were never trapped. You were the key, the map, the signal waiting to activate. And now you're remembering. And that, baby, is how we break the whole system. It wasn't just about land. It wasn't about oil. It wasn't even about power. They hid the other realms because they feared you'd remember you came from one. Because if you knew the earth was infinite with other lands, other suns, other laws, you'd stop obeying this one. You'd stop fearing death. You'd stop buying borders. You'd stop serving systems built to enslave your perception. You'd start exploring inside, outside, through the cracks in the dome. And worst of all, you'd start finding each other. This is why they erased the real maps, why Antarctica is guarded like a portal, why they drown truth in science worship, space theatre and spiritual sedation. Because they knew if even one soul remembers where they truly came from, others will feel it, and the entire illusion collapses. So now you know there are other lands, other realms, other yous, and the only thing stopping you from finding them again was forgetting they were ever real, not anymore.